Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Look, the president, Joe Biden, has dropped out of the race. This is a big flip over a couple weeks ago when there was a vow that he would continue to be in the race. Now, this isn't really a political video, although, veterans issues are surrounded by politics, so it's almost impossible to not talk about it. I just have two questions for the folks out there, and something that kind of bounced through my mind as it relates to veterans and all those affected by the VA and other veteran benefits, the veteran sphere, if you will. Before I jump into it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. This is going to be really short. So one is, when it comes to the markets specifically, they don't like uncertainty. Okay, so now that's happened. So I'm curious what's going to happen in the markets. Not that that's a direct effect on veterans, but is there going to be any, negative consequences? I don't really know how to even phrase this. This really isn't my wheelhouse, and that's why I kind of just things I'm thinking about, and I wanted to share with you and see some comments. With regard to CPI, here we are in the first month of the calculated 3-month period for COLA, cost of living adjustment, right? So our pay increase for veteran benefits like compensation, dependency, indemnity compensation, so forth, as well as Social Security, right? So if we're in the first month of that and we still have a full August and a full September to calculate, are we going to see any sort of, collateral effects, I'll call it, with regard to the consumer price index that's utilized to calculate the COLA? And is that going to be good or bad, right? And again, this, COLA is like veterans benefits, right? Everything is opposite. It's opposite day all the time. Good news is bad news, right? I blew out my knee. Great, I get a high rating. CPI is horrible, right? Inflation's going up. Great, we get a higher raise, right? Although it's never quite enough to get us there. So that's my first question to folks is, will we see any sort of collateral effects, I'll call it, on CPI with the uncertainty that is now upon us, with the way that all of this is kind of unfolding, which is the reason why I'm even talking about it is because it's unusual, right? You don't really see this happen. And for those older folks out there, hey, did this ever happen before? Because I don't really ever remembering anything like this. So that's the first one. The second one is getting veteran legislation passed. Is this better or worse, right? If you have a sitting president who is not going for re-election, so they're not vying for votes, are we better off or are we worse to have a president in that situation where we're going to be pushing through legislation such as the Major Richard Starr Act, for example, being added as an amendment into the NDAA, or any other veteran legislation that's moving around? Is it better or worse to have this situation? I don't really know. So in any case, just wanted to throw it out there. It is kind of obviously the elephant in the room, and it's hard to not talk about it. But it's not from a political aspect. It's from a effect on veterans benefits perspective. So I'm not here to, push anything. Anyway, so please put your comments. I'd love to see kind of on those two things specifically. Do you think this is going to have any sort of effect or just none on CPI, which would then affect COLA? And then 2, do you think that there's going to be any positive or negative effects with regard to any legislation that's getting pushed since there's no need for re-election? What are we looking at there? So with that, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.